everybody, welcome to Dakman Productions and welcome to the LCCA convention here at the Radisson Lackawanna Hotel in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I was invited out here by the LCCA back at the York Spring Train Show, and they wanted me to come out here and shoot video of their events. So I'm here for Saturday. They had a week-long convention. Unfortunately, I could not make that week-long convention. Usually the difference between a show and a convention is a show is like 2 days and you go to the train show and then that's it. A convention is full of events and trips and stuff that you can do during the week. Sort of like similar to what the TCA does, the National Garden Railway Convention does, something similar. Full trips and stuff like that. So we're here at the Radisson Lackawanna Hotel for the Trading Center Saturday. So that's what we're doing here today. We're going to visit the Trading Center, catch some video, and what's neat about the Radisson Lackawanna Hotel, which we'll take a look at here in a minute, it is actually an old Lackawanna station that has been converted into a hotel. Now, I've stayed here many, many years ago. It is a great hotel. The Steamtown historical site is not far from here. So we'll take a look at the hotel here. Let's go ahead. Alright, so here you guys go. Here's the Radisson Lackawanna Hotel. This was originally a Lackawanna train station. As I mentioned, the Steamtown National Historical Park is not that far from here. It's really, really close. Actually, I believe it's walking distance from here. It used to be, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've been to Steamtown, but Steamtown Mall, which you can actually walk to from here, there was like a walkway out the back of that mall where you could actually walk into Steamtown National Park. Right. We're going to check out this event and let's see what's going on. So we are inside of the Radisson Lackawanna Hotel. Once a Lackawanna station converted into a hotel. So you guys can get to see what it's like inside.
Welcome to the LCCA Convention Trading Hall. Here we are.
Okay, so we're taking a little stroll and we're going to find the mastermind behind this whole entire hall. He spends his every waking moment when he's here at convention. This is his baby. This is his hall. Currently, he's talking right now, so we're going to give him a few seconds. But now he's turned around. Win.
Yes.
How are you?
Oh, wow. This is heaven.
Win. This is Sean. This is Batman
Hello.
Productions. And I just gave you the biggest compliment of this is your baby. You put all of your man hours into this hall.
I did.
You did.
This
So I'm gonna.
is my reason to be.
This is reason to be. So this is
And wish they were
LCCA's win.
all as good and pleasant and easy to get along with as you.
But I'm gonna let you talk to Sean. You can explain everything, how you do everything, and then what you have going on.
I can't give out trade secrets.
Okay. Well, don't give out too many secrets, but just make it interesting.
So what can you tell us about the convention today?
All I know is the trading hall.
The trading hall.
The trading hall, we set it up for the public. We set it up for the members and the public, and hopefully it draws enough people that they get good sales. I mean, it's a sort of a high-profile type train show. There's a lot of advertising locally that hopefully draws a lot of people in. And hopefully we get some members out of it. Some that'll sign up to membership. So.
Okay, and how much is membership?
I think it's $30 for the first year, and then there's a reduction for the following year. So $30 is to get their name and all that information. Then after that, it's a little bit less. But yeah, it's a good benefit, and they get notifications. They get benefits. We get special Lionel cars and so forth that they get an opportunity to buy. Get a newsletter every 2 months. So it's a good arrangement.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Sean, I want to officially welcome you to your first LCCA National Convention. We are so honored to have you with us today. And it's been, you and I know, we've been trying for a while to get you here. And I want to say congratulations on being a member of LCCA and being here. And after you're done here, make sure you get down to the Hilton and go down there to the trading hall down there too, or actually the company store down there. There's a lot of stuff down there for everyone to see too. But again, we're so glad to have you part of LCCA.
Thank you, John. And it's been a pleasure and an honor becoming, you guys made me an official LCCA member. Appreciate that. Yeah, we've been talking about doing this show for quite some time. I just couldn't make the whole entire week happen, but I was able to make today, at least for the trading hall, and show people what the LCCA is about and the shows, for those who may not know what the LCCA is. And I know I mentioned it in my intro, but I'll say it here again. LCCA, for those who don't know, stands for the Lionel Collectors Club of America. And they're a club just like a TCA. But if somebody wants to join the club, how much is it to join?
Right now, it's $43. It's going to go up. I think it's going to go up $5, I think, the 1st of August, but it's on the website. Just go to the lcc.org website, and everything you want to know is on there.
Okay. And I'll put a link of that website in the description of this video for you guys want to check it out. Check them out, and hopefully you guys join the club. Wonderful people. And they're always at York as well, so stop in. If you're going to the TCA York show, they always have a booth in the Orange Hall. Check them out there. They have a lot of exclusive custom runs done by Lionel that you're not going to get anywhere else.
And the nice thing is, you saw Sean, we're already, people think that LCCA and TCA are different. Right here is TCA. We're all one family group.
Yes.
And most of us are members of both LCCA and TCA.
Right.
So that's the way it is too. So we're so glad to welcome our brothers and sisters at TCA to be able to be at our convention this year too.
Great. And thank you very much again. And we'll continue on with our video.
You got it.
All right.
Thanks, Sean.
Yep.
run anything, the locomotive numbers are written on this paper.
Okay, thank you.
Typically, with usual, it's very low. But what we always do at the factories is we will make an overrun of parts. Because we know, even if the parts all come out of the mold correctly, as we go forward through all the subsequent assembly processes, something's going to break, something's going to fail, we might need none. So while we're running the parts, we will run a percentage of it. And the factories, through years of experience, tend to know about that. As tools age and wear, it can get a little bit more, you start to see some more failure out of the molds. Typically on a plastic part, if you see this in a kit, if you see the flash, flash around the edge of things, that thin little extra bit of plastic that you're always carving off with your hollow, that's because the pieces of that tool are not fitting as tightly as they should. And that's when you're starting to see that the tool itself is wearing and needs maintenance. A lot of times, just like a steam locomotive,
Alright, on my way to the next event. Doing the Greenberg Egg Show on Sunday instead of Saturday, so it's sort of fitting in a couple different train show events here. I'd like to thank the LCCA for making me a honorary member so I can get into the show and film early. I appreciate that. It was a great event. Highly recommended. If you're looking for conventions that are full of trips and trains to buy and things to see, a little bit of advice: if you're looking to do a convention, make sure you're saving money because they're kind of expensive. Anyway, I'll catch you guys at the next train show, next event. Catch the trackside. Goodbye.